gentlemen, I'm meadsy69. Welcome back to the channel. Now, what was I thinking? What do I mean by that? What was I thinking? Now, a few years ago, and I'm talking like quite a few years ago now, when this tech tree line was introduced into the game, I loved it. I absolutely loved the tech tree version, the tech tree lines, or the tanks of the tier 9, the tier 8. They were brilliant. Like, they really were brilliant, because, you know, we're talking about the mauschen at this point, which is, of course, a German super heavy tier 9 tank. But if you remember the tier 8 version of this, which was the VK100-01, when this tank was first introduced into the game, it was broken. It really was absolutely broken. It had a weak point with the lower plate, but other than that, it had no weak points. It was brilliant, and it was so OP. So OP in the fact when I made one of my videos, the top 5 OP tanks in the game, this was like almost up there at number 1. It was so good. And then I played the tier 9, and I thought, you know what? Like, we're used to playing the mouse, and the mouse is a good tank. It's a fun tank to play, and this is basically a tier 9 mouse. It's a mauschen. And again, in my video, my very first video with this tank, I remember stating that this is going to be one of my favorite tier 9s in the game. Yeah, I was wrong. I was wrong, because in my opinion, again, this is only my opinion, you guys might think differently, but I think this is one of the worst tier 9s in the game. Like, it's supposed to be a super heavy tank with a lot of armor, but it lacks armor. It really does lack armor. We're going to talk about the stats of the tank, and of course we're going to get into some battles. So the stat wise, with the armor, it looks okay. The turret is 240. Yes, fair enough, the turret is actually quite strong, and the hull is 200. Again, it's not too bad. The hull, you've got DPM of 2,185. That is a 12.6 second reload. Your penetration is 250 on your AP, 311 on your APCR, 65 on your HE. Your average damage, you've got a 460 alpha gun, 390 on your APCR, and a very nice 600 on your HE. Aim time 4.1, gun dispersion 0.344. Both of them are round about standard for this kind of tank. You have 8 degrees of gun depression with a top speed of only 25 kilometers per hour. And also, I forgot to mention the hit points, 2,400 hit points, which is very good. But yeah, it just, for me, it lacks a lot of armor. No armor whatsoever. So if you get into a position like where you're angled, your tracks become very weak. You can get penetrated from the side very easy. The front plate, of course, the lower plate is very weak, and as soon as people switch to sort of the APCR, the heat, they can penetrate your front plate as well. The tracks are massive. You used to be able to just shoot in front of the track, and sort of, if you're facing this tank and you shoot them in the track, it still used to do damage, and it used to track them as well, which was very frustrating. But it's one of those tanks, if you are looking directly at them, then yeah, the turret is kind of strong. But, you know, it's also got the cheeks on the turret that, again, people will be able to penetrate. But you'd think, okay, if you're looking directly at someone, then yeah, you're going to give them time to aim at your cheeks. So why not angle? You know, why not angle your turret? Well, simple. If you look at the shape of the turret, if you angle, this front bit of the turret here actually becomes a lot weaker. So the more you angle your turret, the less armor profile, like the less armor it is, and the weaker them sides are going to be. So the best position really is to face the enemy. But again, if you face the enemy, your cheeks become very weak. It is a very frustrating tank. Even though it's a super heavy, it doesn't really have any armor. Even though this game we have managed to block 800 damage, and we've still got 5 tanks left alive. But yeah, the mauschen, I want it to be really good. You know, I want the armor profile to be really good. And another thing disappointing with the tank is not only has it got a weak turret, especially if you do start angling, you have that massive hatch on top that is extremely weak, and again, everybody can just about penetrate that. So you can't even go hull down, because you try to go hull down, they will still be able to see that hatch on top, and it's very disappointing. The gun is nice, the alpha's nice. Again, when you shoot AP into a T30 and you do 509 damage, when you can shoot HE and you can do over 600 damage, then yeah, it is nice. And it is a super heavy, which is why I am a little bit disappointed with the tank over the years, because it's not a heavy. Like, it doesn't have the armor profile like a super heavy tank does. Like the mouse, you know, this now leads on to the mouse. Wargaming changed it so it's sort of they fit it right in the tech tree, which is why they added these tanks, you know. The VK45 wasn't really, it didn't lead on from the mouse properly. It shouldn't have led on from the mouse. So they made this tank, they introduced this tank in tier 9, and they made the mouse lead on from this tank, because it is basically a tier 9 mouse, almost. With the mouse, you actually have armor, you know, you have a lot of armor, and as soon as you start angling your tank, your armor becomes better, especially that turret. And there are a few German tanks like that, you know. You've got the E100, the Jaegeru, they've all got weak sort of turrets, but as soon as you start angling them turrets, it becomes a lot stronger and a lot more difficult to penetrate. So yeah, overall, at the start, when I first played the tank, yeah, it was brilliant. You know, you got this super heavy. You don't have many at all, actually. You don't have any super heavy tanks in tier 9. We had a few in tier 10, the E100, the mouse. You can maybe consider the Jaegeru, but I don't consider the Jaegeru, the Jagdpanzer E100, as a super heavy. It is a super, well, it's a super heavy, super tank destroyer. So this was one of the first proper super heavy tier 9 tanks. So I really did want to enjoy it, and at the time when it was first released, I was enjoying it, because there was nothing really like that. You know, a mouse coming up against tier 8 tanks, it was absolutely beautiful. But yeah, over the years, you come to learn sort of how to play it, how to come up against it, and then you kind of realize, you know what, you suck. You really do suck. Why the hell would I want to play this tank when the armor in most angles is paper? Yes, again, you can get bounces. Of course you can get bounces, but overall, I do think it is just falling behind everything else. It does, in my opinion, need a rework. And one of those reworks is the armor profile. Wargaming do need to adjust that armor profile to make it better and make it be able to stand more shots, because at the minute, there is just too many weak points on this tank. So I hope you enjoyed today's video, guys. Let me know what you think of this tier 9 mauschen in the comments below. But for now, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I'm meadsy69, and I'll catch you all soon. Bye bye.